Hello everybody, welcome to the Dying to Know Day webinar. My name is Jess Williams and my colleague Holly Franken-Smith. We are just getting used to this technology. It's completely exciting, and thank you to Jo for being our moderator. I did want to put in a little plug for Jo. She's a career change coach, so if anybody feels like they want to have a coaching session with her, you can get in touch with me and I'll put you in touch with Jo. So some introductions and then we'll tell you what to expect for today. So I'm the Executive Officer of the Groundswell Project. I've been with Groundswell, I was on the board for 2 years and in the EO role for about 3 years. And I work with Kerry Noonan, who many of you would know, that's me. And my colleague Holly.
Hello, my name's Holly. I work across Dying to Know Day and our compassionate communities work. With Dying to Know Day, I really support Kerry, who is just gangbusters legend, Dying to Know Day royalty, and I try and support her and support all our event holders to put on the best event that they can. So it's really exciting to have everyone here today and kick it off.
Yay, thanks Holly. And I can see that we've got about 27 people on the call so far. People will be joining us throughout the hour, I'm sure. We're going to be recording it and posting it on our channels. So Jo, I might just hand to you to do a little bit of a tech orientation.
Hi, thanks Jessie. Hi, I'm Jo. I'm going to be looking at your questions and comments coming through today. So if you have something that you'd like to tell us, whether that's a comment or a question, please use the Q&A box. If you go down to the bottom of your screen, you'll see a little panel. If you press Q&A, a little box will pop up and you can send us a comment or a question there. There'll be points throughout the webinar where Holly and Jessie will stop for questions. So please post any questions as they come up or during those points as well. You can choose to post anonymously if you wish, and we'll either get back to you over text or Jessie and Holly will speaking to you when they stop for questions. Thanks.
Fabulous. Thank you, Jo. So guys, what is the purpose of the call today? Well, there's a couple of objectives that we've got in mind. Firstly, we really wanted to share with you the essence of the Dying to Know Day campaign. So once we really do that and share the purpose, Holly's going to take us through a timeline. We are 6 months out, I believe, today. So good timing, good scheduling for a webinar. So she's going to take you through what you can expect from us and some tips on how you can start to really plan your event and some key stages that you'll need to be aware of. We're going to take you into a space where you can imagine your event for Dying to Know Day this year. So for some of you, you're new to the campaign and you're new to holding an event. And for some of you, you're oldies, you've been around for a while. So we want to create a space where you can imagine the kind of event that you really want to hold this year. And then through that, you'll get to come up with some questions that you want to ask us. So this is not going to be an hour of us talking. We really want it to be interactive, although the only way you can let us know what your thoughts are is through text, unfortunately. And then hopefully we'll be able to bring in 2 past event holders and they can share a bit of a story about what they learned through holding a Dying to Know Day event. And lastly, what you can expect from Groundswell over the next 6 months. So whether you're a first timer or you're an old hand, we really hope that you'll get something out of this call. So let's kick off with the poll. Jo's going to start a poll. So we really wanted to know how many of you today are first timers in holding a Dying to Know Day event. So you see a poll come up there, you should be able to vote pretty quickly and easily. So are you a first-time host of Dying to Know Day? And what state or territory are you joining us from?
We should have some like music.
Trying to remember, yeah, those shows aren't around anymore.
We can come back to the poll.
Come back to the poll.
The results.
Okay. Wowzers. So 70% are first-time event holders, and we have most people from New South Wales and then Victoria, and then a pretty even spread across everywhere else. Wow, that's awesome. Well, that really reflects the campaign. So the campaign's in its 6th year now. The first year we had 23 events, and to date we've had over 450. So the number of first timers is growing. So that's awesome. Thank you so much for being with us. So look, the Groundswell Project, we are a charity. We're social innovators. We've been around for 8 years now in Australia. We're a team of 5 part-time staff in Sydney. We work across the country, of course. Our vision is for a society that knows what to do when someone is dying, caring or grieving. And our mission is to raise Australia's death literacy. And Dying to Know Day is our public health campaign. So I wanted to show you some slides that will really speak to the impact. Just move this around and go. So sit back and we'll speak to our impact. Whoop. Just a little bit of a technical hitch here.
It's a learning curve.
It is a learning curve. It's actually quite a good point about holding an event for Dying to Know Day. You don't have to get it right the first time. Talking about death never killed anyone, ever. There's a revival happening in communities across Australia, driven by the baby boomers and their maverick spirit, and it's catching on for the rest of us. Talking about and planning for the end of life experience, because dying and death is a social experience supported by medical care and not the other way around. In Australia, 75% of us have not discussed what we hoped for at the end of our life with our family and friends. Over 70% of us die in hospital and aged care, though most of us would prefer to die at home. And instead of comfort care, 30% of people receive futile treatments at the end of their lives. This happens because the experience of dying has changed considerably over the past 100 years. People are living longer and dying more slowly with chronic and long-term illnesses. For the first time in history in the West, there's a proportion of the population living into adulthood having never experienced the death of an immediate family member. Everyday wisdom about dying has been lost, and lack of knowledge breeds fear and avoidance. Children, young people, families, and communities are less involved in end-of-life caring, which used to be a natural instinct for everyone. As a result, conversations about coping with bereavement or planning for end-of-life care are avoided and simply don't happen. To address this, significant resources have been invested to increase the uptake of advanced care planning, but people still aren't planning ahead. Dying to Know Day works to change this, to bring to life conversations and community actions around death, dying, and bereavement. We focus on helping people develop their death literacy. And just like all things in life, a little bit of knowledge when you need it the most can change things in an instant. Death literacy is the practical know-how needed to plan well for end of life. This means having knowledge, skills, and being able to take action. So, how do we develop our death literacy? By being involved. Having conversations and caring for others helps us make informed choices about our own care. We learn how to do it our way, what we want, how to ask for it and how to accept support, and how to offer it to others. And feeling equipped to act is empowering. So how can you be involved? Do you have experience in caring for someone through dying? Have you learned a few things about the end-of-life journey? And will you support others to do the same? Dying to Know Day helps you by supporting your ideas for community events. We help you promote them and give you engaging and fun resources to get the message out there. And we also give tips on how to engage the media. So, why do it? End-of-life planning is about passion for life, for community, and for having rich conversations. It's about creating magic that spreads. So that's our voice. That's the Groundswell voice. That's the impact that we hope to have with the campaign. So where did the campaign come from? Well, it came from inspiration from this book. Hopefully many of you have seen this. The book called Dying to Know. It was curated by a group called Igniting Change. Jane Houston is the philanthropist and the change maker who started Igniting Change. And it's got 60 images and words that are curated around end of life and mortality and the meaningfulness that we have when we lean into this. And we were so inspired by the book that we approached Jane and we said, could we build a campaign around the book? And she said, absolutely. So that's really where we started. The campaign is not sponsored by any partners, really. It's supported by a lot of people. The money that supports the development of the resources is really earned through the sale of the resources, and Groundswell essentially self-funds staff time to make it work. So it's very much a grassroots movement. So I might just hand to Holly. Before I do, are there any burning questions on the impact of the campaign or the purpose? I've gone through it pretty quickly on the Dying to Know Day webpage. Of course, there's a lot more information there that you can dive in. We might just pause now just to see if there's any Q&A. Pop into your box there if there's any burning questions about the history and the aims of the campaign. Just give you 10 seconds to think.
Yeah, try and put it in Q&A rather than the chat, because that's where we're focusing our attention.
Okay, let's move on and we'll just keep monitoring questions. If you've still got them, pop them in there and we'll address them up to the timeline. So, Holly, we'll go back to here.
Yep, that's the next one.
Okay.
So I just wanted to walk you through a pretty snapshot timeline of what you can expect in terms of organising your event between now and August the 8th. So at this point in the campaign, we want you to just be talking. So talk to people around you. If this is your first time hosting an event, just see what kind of interest there is in your own community, family, friends, neighbours. Throw a few ideas out there. I think often I hear for first timers, the most successful event is just keeping it really simple and personal. So invite a few people around for dinner, just have a few prepared discussion points or questions. And really the feedback that we get is it kind of just spirals from there. People are really engaged and ready to talk about this stuff. You're just offering a place for that to happen. If you're thinking of hosting as part of your workplace, then talk to your colleagues and any superiors about what event they'd be open to. It could be a special lunch function or maybe a Q&A or panel discussion with some people from your workplace who are interested in this topic. We've set up a Dying to Know Day 2018 Facebook group, which is really going to be the place where we are going to keep sharing ideas and discussions. So you can access that just through the Dying to Know Day Facebook page, or just email me if you have any troubles. So moving on from February, after we're kind of talking and exploring, in March, that's kind of when you want to kind of lock in what your idea is. You want to start prepping ahead of time. So March is a good time to kind of think, yeah, I think I will do a dinner, or I'm going to get my mother's group together for a cup of tea one morning, whatever it is. In April, you want to start preparing by building your team. So whether that's in the workplace where you get some colleagues on board, maybe you'd consider partnering with other organisations that have similar values or investment and work together. We really advocate connecting and networking and collaborating. If you're doing something more personal in your own home or just locally, then just see who will put their hand up to help you. It's a really great way to build connection and build other people's engagement in the campaign. Maybe your neighbour would be happy to bring a plate, whatever it is. April's a time to start kind of putting the feelers out for people to help you on your event. In May, that's when we are going to release our first lot of resources. So if you need resources for your event, you can order them through the Dying to Know Day website. You can actually have a look now on past resources, and we'll send you a link after the webinar just so that's really clear and easy. Each year we design kind of new collateral that works to a theme for this year, which is still being designed and organised now, but May will be when we can start sending that out. So start thinking about what you might need. Do you want some discussion cards? Do you just want some cool merch like, you know, bumper stickers or bunting flags? We've got a whole lot of different things like that. Then when we move to June, that's when we want you to start inviting people to your event. So by email, phone, make a Facebook event, talk to people face to face. The biggest tip we can give you in this regard is that people will care about the event and the topic when they realise how much you care about it. Dying to Know Day is a really personal, impactful campaign because people really speak from their own passion and experience, and we really encourage you to do that. If you're facilitating an event through your workplace, then we've all been there. You might have some internal systems that prove a bit challenging. So we really recommend to give your workplace enough time to work through these issues and concerns and get on board. And again, your personal passion for the importance of this issue, I think, it can move mountains. If you need help, we are here for you. So just get in touch by email, through the Facebook group. Whatever you need, we will do our best. In July, that's when we really ramp up promoting. So if you're holding a big event, that's when you really want to invest in some proper promotion, whether that's boosting posts through your Facebook event, sticking flyers up, letterbox drop, whatever it is. July is the time to really kick that off. You've got kind of 1 month, 4 weeks to get people excited and lock it in their calendars. We're also going to provide you a bit of a event pack, and part of that will be a media release template that you can just amend and adjust to suit your event specifically. We really encourage you to engage media because this social movement is kicking off around the world and in Australia, and it really comes down to the media responding to what people are passionate about and what they're talking about. So if you're talking about a better approach to end of life, that's something that should be celebrated across the board in your community. So we'll help you with that media approach. Then in August, that's the big day. We just ask that you enjoy it. Your event might be on August the 8th, or it could be throughout the month. It's still part of the Dying to Know Day campaign. And when you've worked so hard, it is just really satisfying to sit back, enjoy your efforts and the wonderful conversations that will be sparked by your event. After the event, we like to send out an evaluation form, and I know it's a bit boring and tedious, but it's actually really important for us. As Jessie said before, our campaign's grown from 23 events to over 450, and that's because we get really good feedback from our event holders and we know best how to support you next time. So please take the time to do that after your event. I think that's it from me.
Fantastic. Thank you, Holly. And actually, do you want to just speak to...
Oh yeah, so as I mentioned briefly, we do have resources that we'll send out to you. So the early bird mail out will be kind of late May, and then the panicked last minute mail out will be mid-July. So just that kind of May, June, July is when you can get those resources from us.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Holly. Just a word too on the evaluation. So absolutely it helps us learn about what your needs are going forward. Also, we share the results of that evaluation with key stakeholders in the end-of-life space in Australia. So that's Department of Health and palliative care and so forth. So we like to showcase the grassroots nature of this work to say that actually a lot of people do want to engage with it, and how can those in positions of authority with funding support the rest of us to get on with some stuff. So we might just see if we can segue now and actually bring in Claire. I think Claire's on the call. Dr. Claire Hepper is a past event holder, and she may have just some tips or a story to share with us. So, hey, Claire.
Hello.
Hi. How you doing?
Good. I'm not great with this technology though.
On this learning curve. So you look fabulous. Claire, thank you so much for joining us. Do you want to just, we'll just spend maybe 3 or 4 minutes. What was your event and what was it like?
Okay, so we dipped our toe in the water in a very small way for the first time last year. I'm a GP in a small town in Victoria, and we have a charity that we work with called Shannon's Bridge, who just wants to help connect people between services that exist and bridge those gaps where services don't exist, and volunteers. So we had a lot going on around this time last year, and so I decided just to go out on a limb and do it a little bit ad hoc, and part of my reflection would be to start earlier, and I love that timeline. I thought that was really good. So there's lots of people who said, you know, around the time of the event, gosh, if we had known, we would have done more, or we could have helped, or we could have done this. So I think starting early, you'll find people come out of the woodwork to help support you. So we decided to do an event based on NFR is NQR. So, you know, that not for resuscitation is not quite right, because we've got legislation that's changed in Victoria now. Coming in March, advanced care plans will be legislated. And my feeling's always been that, you know, you hear in handovers and you hear, you know, between facilities, you hear things like, oh, that person's NFR. That tells me nothing about the person. It tells me nothing about their values. It tells me nothing about their wishes when it comes to everything apart from CPR. And we know CPR is such a small part of end of life conversations, but it becomes the bit that takes over. So I was trying to say that NFR is not enough and too much. You know, you'll end up sort of going down a particular direction without, okay, well, actually, this is Bob, and this is what's important to Bob. And Bob wants to have Christmas with his family, and some IV antibiotics and one shot of radiotherapy for his lung cancer might help him get to Christmas. That tells me a lot more about Bob. So what we ended up doing was, my husband's in the RSL in Creswick, and we asked them if we could use their hall, which is next door to where my practice is. So that was nice and easy to go backwards and forwards. We set up some information displays. We had advanced care plans there for people to walk through, discussion starters. We did some bunting. We did a dying to know vote for values. So there's the different values of being independent, having music, all those different values. And we had little tokens, and everyone got 3 tokens, and they could vote for what they wanted. We've taken that around at lots of different places now. And it's really interesting to see the different groups, the different emphasis, and you know, what we've seen at a palliative care conference and what people have voted is very different to what's been voted by, say, the drop-in that we had for Dying to Know Day. So the feedback that we got was that it was good. They liked it. They wanted us to they wanted me and the other people there to stand up and give a little talk. They thought that's what it was going to be, rather than a drop-in, you know, one-on-one chat. So I did get a lot out of the one-on-one chats. So we had 3 people sit down and do their advanced care plans and get ready to take them to their GP, which I thought was fantastic. And we connected someone with services that they didn't know existed. So to me, total win. But it was interesting that that particular group wanted a more formal. They didn't want the drop-in. They wanted the more formal sit down, you know, sit there and be told about things and have a story. And I think the story side of it's really important. They also thought there'd probably be more emphasis on Shannon's Bridge, which was about a young girl, Shannon McKnight, who died. So I've learned a lot from that, and I've learned a lot about planning earlier and recruiting people. We had our health service involved in a peripheral sense because our district nurses do a lot of this work. So that's how we sort of found it, and I loved it. But I think starting earlier, recruiting people earlier, and just, yeah, having a clear idea of what you think your community would want. And now I've got a bit of a better idea of what I think they want and what they found useful, and have a lot more resources than what I printed, because they all went, they're gone. Everyone's like, where's that other one? I even had someone take my laminated copies of things because they were, you know, just free to take
a laminated copy.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do next time, now that you've done that and you know what you know?
I think a bit bigger. I think combining more with the other services in our area. I'd like to focus more on compassionate communities approach, so more on whole of life, not just the NFR stuff. But I felt it really needed to be said, because the conversation in Victoria has been hijacked by a couple of different issues in the recent year. And I felt like nobody was talking about advanced care planning being legislated, that this is how to get your voice heard at end of life. I think now we could extend that out a bit more, but I'm sure there'll be lots of questions about the change in legislation. And so I'll probably still have an element of that. I think it'll be more formal, with having maybe 2 to 3 speakers, and then time for questions afterwards. So a bit more like a forum, I guess.
That's so cool. Thank you so much, Claire. So, and what I heard you say too in terms of takeaways is get people to do something. Like I love your put the coin and choosing 3. So I read Chatterbox as a groundswell. And so one of the things that, you know, the first thing we do in all of our sort of educational events is we get people to do something. And it can be write your own name tag out. It doesn't matter, as long as you're doing something. And lots more resources as well. So awesome. Thank you, Claire.
Welcome. I might have to run away. I've got another family meeting, you know, have those important conversations and write them down. So let me know if anyone's got questions, anything I can do.
Great.
Thank you so much, Claire.
Thanks,
Bye.
Claire.
The other thing you'll note with Claire's experience and story too is that she used her own perspective, her skills and her knowledge to create an event that has integrity for her role as a doctor. So I think that's the beautiful thing about this grassroots campaign, is that it's pluralist, it's diverse, it's whatever you want to bring to the table. So we might just see if Jerry's on the line. Do we have Jerry? Oh, I think we do here. Okay, do you want to do the technical thing? It's far too technical for me to click that. We're just seeing if we can bring in Jerry.
Hello.
Hello, Jerry. How you doing?
Hello.
Hello.
I'm okay. I'm not sure about the technology. This is the first time I've used Zoom. But I'm sitting in my car overlooking the harbour.
Oh, beautiful.
So in between clients. So
good on you, Jerry. Thank you for joining us. Tell us your experience of being an event holder.
all right. So I'm a member of the Sydney Threshold Choir. Have been for about 4 or 5 years now, and we sing to people on the threshold. We go into nursing homes. We go to people's homes. We sit with people and sing to them at the end of their life. And I've been excited about the whole Groundswell project and the Dying to Know Day. I was at the launch in King's Cross, however many years ago that was. Seems a long time ago now. So the choir have actually run 3 events. We call our events the Good Grief Cafe. We have applied and received for the last 3 years a grant from Leichhardt Council, now the Inner West, I think. And they've, which has allowed us to put on an event that we could offer for free to the community. So the first one, it was just, a couple of hours and an afternoon tea. Totally overcatered, but was delightful. And we had, it's not a workshop, it is a workshop, but we get people to engage. We had Trish Wasps has been our consistent facilitator through the last 3 events. Trish is a musical director, she's a voice movement therapist. And so the choir and the participants use song to express their emotions, to connect with their feelings around grief and around death and dying, either around their feelings about their own or of loved ones that have passed, who have died recently. The first 2, we also had Victoria Spence, who many of you will know. She's a how do you describe Victoria? She has a huge range of knowledge, but sorry?
She's she helps with ritual, maybe that's her short.
Yes, ritual is her. So
what could I just jump in and ask you, what was your purpose for the event in terms of the guests? What were you hoping people felt and knew and had as a result?
To give them a space where they could express what had been going on for them, where they could talk with other people, where they could come into community around their grief and their loss. It's been amazingly well received. One of our biggest issues has been numbers. The first one we did, we had 60 participants. The second one we had 70. The third one we changed function. It's evolved. So initially the first one was, an afternoon workshop and afternoon tea. Then it became a longer 10 till 4 type of event. And in the third one, we, along with music, we included art. And so we had Trish Watts again with the music and singing the songs from the choir. We had Sally Swain, and we had an art project. So, and the third facilitator we had was Beata Stella, who is a bereavement counsellor does a lot of work on loss and grief, and so digging deeper into, you know, expression and engagement with how we were feeling.
Yeah. And
That one, because of the art work, we limited the numbers to 40, and we were turning people away. It was, you know, nobody can say that there are not people out there who want to engage with this. The biggest issue we've had has been, you know, how many people can we handle in this space? We used a beautiful venue at in Roselle, the Hannaford Hall.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a gorgeous venue, but it's also, you know, the size is so we had to restrict numbers.
What I love about your story, Jerry, is that you went local. So it's one of our key tips actually is make
yeah, because we were sponsored by the Leichhardt Council.
Yeah.
It was, you know, it was designed to provide a free service to their community, and so it was very much targeted. Though we had people from the Central Coast, and we had a lot of people from sort of out of the area who also attended. Over the 3 years, we've built up a mailing list through, you know, MailChimp and Eventbrite and everything else. So the numbers keep on growing.
And can I ask you, in terms of getting that funding, did we was there anything useful that Groundswell supported you with there, or did you just kind of go, no, I'll just put it in my own words and apply? Or
look, we certainly would have used you know, some of the information from you, but we had done grants in the past, and you know, that we've always been well received and found the council very generous.
That's great. And what would be, just in final, your takeaways, your tips, your top tips for other people thinking of putting something on?
Look, I think one of the most beautiful things about it, is apart from the responses we got from the participants, was how it brings a community that is, you know, our choir together in organising this, you know.
Oh, might have lost.
Gone. The choir comes together, you know, the sort of, we always take great delight in making the venue look beautiful, you know, the flowers and the altars and the whole Zen aspect of it, and the food. So it's a beautiful community building event for us.
Beautiful.
And you know, so we put love into it and we get love back, I think, really.
That's awesome, Jerry. Thank you so much for sitting in your car. I hope the view was nice. I really
the view's lovely, and I've got air conditioning in the car, which I haven't got at home. So
there you are. Fantastic. And just quickly, are you going to put something on this year?
We haven't gone through the grant process this year. I think by the end of last year, a lot of us were quite tired. So, but our home is the Marion Aged Care Facility in Leichhardt. It's where we do our rehearsals, and we go and sing a lot to their residents. So we'll talk to them about doing something in conjunction with them. So it'll be, you know, for obviously an aged care facility, they have a lot of families who have lost loved ones, who have, you know, their parents and relatives who have died in the facility. So we'll talk to them about putting something on. So that's on my agenda for next week.
Right. Awesome, Jerry. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks.
Okay.
See ya.
So maybe we'll just have a look at, should we answer some questions?
Yeah,
I think
sounds
there's
good.
a few that can come up. Just on the questions, there's a couple that have been not specifically Dying to Know Day related. So if you have a question that's other than Dying to Know Day, just send us an email and we'll definitely get back to you.
Yeah, okay.
First one. Yeah.
This one here or this one?
So
if we, from Kyle, if we decided to have a movie screening, is there a list of suggested movies to screen? Absolutely. So I think that's in the resources page.
Yeah, on our website we have, it's called The Big List, and that is a huge list of films, books, lots of things that we feel are appropriate or relevant to spark conversation. I'll post a link to that in the Facebook group, so just jump in there.
Fantastic. And Vicky's made a suggestion of an editable PDF, a flyer and poster in the event pack.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion.
Absolutely, we'll take that on. Thank you so much, Vicky. Anna's asked, where can we find stats on death rate? How many people dying at home versus etc.? Anna, that's a really great question. So what we're going to do is we'll email everybody the links to sort of the best research that we draw from. I have a feeling that dying at home rates are actually a little bit hard to find. Maybe by state they're not so hard. So we will share that post-call. What a great suggestion. Copy of the slides? Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll email that out.
And NQR from Michael, that's not quite right. So I think Claire's event there was, she found a snazzy title to use, so something with a hook. So there's kind of a good tip there as well. Okay, so what we might do now is just spend 1 minute to go into an imagining space for yourself. So whether you need to close your eyes or just turn away from the screen or just shuffle in your seat a little bit, I'd like to ask you just some questions to spark your own imagination, and then we'll go back to some Q&A. So what kind of event do you want to run? Who is your target audience? Who are the people that you really want to connect with? How will you tell people about it? Will you tell people just face-to-face? Will you use social media? Any fears that come up when you're imagining telling people about it? What will you do with the resources that Groundswell produces? And what other resources would you like to produce? How will people let you know that they want to come? Do you want people to register? Or do you want people to just drop in? Do you want to find out before the event why people want to come? How do you want people to feel? What do you want them to know? What resources do you need? What will they need? And what about you? How do you want to feel? And what role do you want to play at the event? So just take a moment now to jot down any thoughts you might have. I hope we've sparked your thinking a little bit there with some prompting questions and some stories. We'll go back into Q&A now. And so Melissa mentions, are we able to use the slides? Yeah, so the slides in terms of this webinar, some of them won't be a good fit for you, but in terms of the impact slides, I think we might just give them a little tweak because we've only just done them and we haven't got feedback on them yet. So if you've got feedback on them, we'd love to have that feedback once we send them to you. And then what we might do is just polish it up a little bit and create a package that you can then use for yourself. So Helen asks, you mentioned a media hook. Can you say a bit more about that, please? Any ideas and resources? Yeah, so we work with national media every year. So obviously we send out press release and we engage sort of the major magazines. Look, my experience in the first 3 years was the hook was talking about death. That was enough of a hook. That in itself was like really interesting. Something's happened in the zeitgeist, as I'm sure many of you will agree, in the last 2 years. And last year, for the first time, media was saying to us, yeah, okay, sounds like it's a great campaign, but what's the hook? And we're like, wow, this is where something's happened in the space. We're all getting a bit more comfortable with this talking about death.
Which is really good.
Which is very good. It's very good. And we had slightly less uptake in terms of national media last year, but a lot more uptake in terms of local media. So I would say one of the big tips there is a local story. So I remember I rang my local paper, the Courier West, or the Inner West. I live in Marrickville in Sydney, and I spoke to a journo there, and he didn't want to know about the campaign and the ideas behind it. He wanted to know a person who has been caring, or a person who is living with a chronic disease, or a person who's designed their own funeral, a person who's had a living wake. He wanted a local character, and that's what we were able to find. So that's tip number one. Do you have any other thoughts on?
Yeah, I think the personal story or an interesting personal experience is always a good one in terms of local media. And then if you're having a public event, definitely let local media know, but also list on all the event sites. There's so many that cover lots of different areas, and I think that's a good way to drum up interest, and that can often attract media in itself.
We are looking at a fresh hook for this year. So last year we had talking about death.
What if talking about death didn't even raise an eyebrow?
Thank you, Holly. So we don't want to release it yet because we still need to kind of get creative with it, but we've got a pretty good idea of what it's going to be.
It's
and
in
we
the
hope to.
incubator.
It's in the incubator. We hope to get it to you soon. So hopefully that will be some fresh language that we can all use together.
So Melissa has asked, if you don't have Facebook, what are the other options to access information and ideas? Awesome question. If you don't have Facebook, I applaud you. It can be a time waste, let's be honest. We do a lot of our communicating through social media, but also we have a great newsletter list. And so if you go to dyingtoknowday.org, you'll be able to sign up to be part of our newsletter list, and you'll definitely get all the information you need through that source. So that's an email. You'll probably get about one a month in the lead up to Dying to Know Day.
Fabulous. And we've got a couple of suggestions here. So Helen said, great visualization questions and so fast. Yes, absolutely, Helen. We'll share those as part of the slides, so thank you. Now, okay, so there's some great comments there, but so we might just keep chewing those over after the call, and we'll respond to them. I think you can probably talk this one here.
Yeah, Vicky has asked a question about funding, and that can sometimes restrict the kind of size of event or the reach that you have. That's something that we are constantly battling with every year too. So we kind of do Dying to Know Day on the fly. It's not a funded part of our work. If it was, I wish we could help everyone with funding in terms of amplifying their event. We can certainly offer support if you're going for a grant in terms of a letter of support or something to that regard. So please feel free to email us with something more specific.
We do have a cheat sheet, don't we? Like a 2-page fact sheet on the campaign with key stats, key hooks.
All on the website.
All on the website, ready to go. Yeah. So just make sure you really thoroughly explore the website as well. There's a lot of stuff on there too.
Yeah. There's a couple of questions that are more specific about legislation or kind of more specific, not Dying to Know Day specific, sorry. So let's take that conversation online, and we can really open up discussion there rather than in this forum.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, so keep your questions coming if you've got any more. We've got about 10 minutes left. What we've got left on our list is just to give some key tips that we may not have covered yet, and then we'll just see how we're going, and if we wind up a touch early, then that's fine too. So tip number 1, just do it. This has been the mantra at Groundswell since we started. When we first started, of course, there's kind of naysayers and things like that about, it's taboo and people don't want to talk about it. And we were like, let's just do it. Maybe we should just do it and just see what happens. So don't overthink it. Just get your toes on the water and be brave and just do it. And you actually can't get it wrong. You can't get it wrong. I'm a facilitator, and I remember hosting a conversation, and there was some myth busting going on, and myth busting I think is a really good thing to do because it's part of death literacy. And there was somebody in the group, and she wasn't very comfortable with that, and she left, and I went running down the street after her saying, let's talk about it. And I grabbed her and I said, please, let's talk about it. And we did. And it was actually a really mutually enlightening conversation. So my personal takeaway from that is, if you open the space and you share the space, and you make sure that everyone's included and every opinion is honoured, you really can't get it wrong. Keep it simple. So, don't overcomplicate it. Keep it simple, keep it local. If you want to start small and build on it in the next year, that's a really good strategy. You don't need to be a presenter. You don't need to be have a spotlight. You could be actually the kind of quiet person in the background. And because, I think one thing we know for sure at Groundswell is that when you invite people into a conversation around end of life, people want to talk. So don't create a 10-minute PowerPoint slideshow. Ask them what they want to talk about it and just get cracking. Make it local. Use the local social networks. Use the local pro bono support. Get somebody to donate the space, because that in of itself is creating community capacity and buy-in, actually, because they'll keep coming back and give you more next year. Plan well, plan early. I think we've heard that tip already. Go with your gut feeling on what it is that you want to do. If you scroll through the list of events from last year, you'll see that there's a broad array of events, everything from a death cafe to a movie screening and so forth.
I was just going to say, every year we, throughout the 6 months in the lead up, we love to share people's stories. So people's personal experience in caring for someone through end of life, or their own, even stories from workplace, or just their own journey. Stories are so important. And Claire shared that about her event. It was people wanted more story. So if you have a story to share, your personal story or a story that's really moved you, please let us know. Please email us, because we'd love to put it on the Dying to Know Day blog as a resource that will inspire and move other people to action.
Beautiful. Thanks, Holly. And there's a question here about costs involved in using our resources. No, I mean, there are some resources that you do need to buy, and there's a whole bunch that you just download and just use for free.
So we do sell the book that Jess held up before that inspired the campaign, so you can buy that from our website.
And that's the key fundraiser that pays for the costs, basically.
Yeah, and then we have a few resources like bumper stickers and chatterbox and bunting flags that you can purchase, but most of the resources other than that are downloadable, and you can just print them off yourself, or they're e-flyers, and there's no cost involved. We try and make it as cost effective as we can for you.
Absolutely. And I do want to speak to a comment here. So thank you. I don't know who the name is because it's not come up, but there's a question there around Groundswell and our position on assisted dying. So we're neutral on that. That's not our purpose to speak to that. So what we do is we create spaces for people to raise their death literacy. And so, yeah, we're 100% Switzerland on that. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah.
The Dying to Know Day book does as a PowerPoint run. Oh, yeah. So thanks, David. So you asked about the Dying to Know Day being in a PowerPoint. So the simple answer is no. So we've had conversations with Igniting Change around that, and they feel quite strongly that this is a piece of art, this in of itself, and so we're not going to sort of repurpose it and co-opt it into sort of other mediums. So we respect that that's their position on it. So yeah, that's the answer to that one.
Could we have a compilation of suggested art activities on the website? Sure. I think that there's a lot of stuff
idea
on there. It's just
we can always do more.
Finding it. But yeah, specific art activities is a really good idea.
That's a fantastic idea. So we could actually, in the lead up to the campaign, we could run an open crowdsourcing ideas fest on that, because there's a lot of artists in the network. So cool. The last tip I've got here is to manage your expectations. Be satisfied with even a small turnout. Like, this is a social change movement. You think of the feminist movement, the environmental movement, when way back in the day, they started with encounter groups. They started with 3 women in the feminist movement anyway, drinking wine and talking about a brand new world. So whoever shows up are the right people. I think that's a really good mantra to have. Manage your own expectations and check in with Groundswell on any questions that you might have, any concerns or fears that you just want to bounce off.
And I think as well, an event with 200 people that hear a lot of new information versus an event with 3 people that have really rich conversation that goes quite deep. you can't compare, like they're the same, both of great value. So just manage your expectations so that you're present and enjoying the day.
Thank you. Okay, that's it from us. We're going to give you 3 minutes for any burning questions. Otherwise, we'll start to wind up and tell you what you can expect. But you've got a final chance to ask questions.
Yeah. So just to wrap up, as we wait for any more questions, what's next? So as I said before, it'd be great for you to join the Dying to Know Day 2018 Facebook group. If you do have Facebook, that's just it's a private group, so it's just for people who are thinking of hosting or are definitely hosting an event this year. That's where we'll share resources that have been discussed today and lots of other chat, and you'll probably have great conversations with each other in terms of sparking ideas and inspiration. When you have locked in what your event's going to be, register it on our website. So we love to get that event count ticking as soon as we can. So if you're definitely doing something, let us know about it. And if you want any further support, just get in touch. We will support you however we can, whether it's resources or needing a speaker at an event. We'll do what we can to help you. Just jumping back to the Q&As now, we've got, do you have Twitter and Instagram? We do have Twitter. It's through Groundswell. So Jess and I are from the Groundswell Project. Dying to Know Day is our public health campaign. So the Twitter is the Groundswell Project, I think. I'll put that up in our chats online.
I might need to double check that. Yeah. Thanks, Holly. I have to read this out from student. I've given this party twice now and people haven't come. Newspaper ads, Facebook events and details obviously didn't connect. I'll mind your website for more tips. Oh, give us a call. We want to talk to you because you're obviously committed student. Email us, tell us what your actual name is, and we'd love to support you to get something up and running where people can join. Okay, so back to us, back to you actually, because it's all about you. Thank you for joining us. We don't know how to close because this is our first webinar. We're going to let Jo do that. We hope it's been what you expected. Oh no, there's a poll. There's a poll. Oh, cool. There's an evaluation poll. Jo, bring the evaluation poll up. Thanks for your attendance. Thanks for your passion. Thanks for your love. Thanks for your time. How valuable was this webinar? You've got to answer that before you're allowed to go. Have a great day, whether you're New South Wales, Victoria, any Northern Territory, ACT, Tasmania. And
stay in touch.
Stay in touch.
We've recorded this, so we're going to put it up online through our social channels. Just for anyone who missed out. So if you've got colleagues or friends who couldn't make it, then don't stress.
Okay. Thank you guys. Take care. Have a great Dying to Know Day. Woo-hoo.